So
Okay.
Foresight, if you could
Yeah.
talk about the group first.
Jimmy Green on saxophone, Irene Losnes piano, and Peyton Crosby on drums. Originally, this group set out to be a quartet of percussion, piano, bass, and drums, and that went the way of good bands. I decided I would try something else, and Jimmy Green was recommended to me. I had never heard him play. I knew who he was, and I heard him had a record of on my computer. Had a record on him. He sound such an interesting person, interesting player who would seem to me to be aware of playing with the band, not instead of the band, or not in spite of the band.
Yeah.
And I've always liked Irene's voicings when I've heard her play with her groups around town. So, and Peyton was the drummer of the original quartet, so it seemed like a nice change of, not necessarily a change of pace because it's changing, but the hornless quartet had gone as far as they could go.
Yeah.
I thought that maybe we need somebody else to bring a different tie, as it were, to the band. And James does that very well. He plays soprano and tenor, but with this band, he only plays tenor.
Yeah, yeah.
He writes well. He reads really well. He understands. There's a bass player back there who's playing some stuff to help him out if he allows it, and I make sure he allows it. And he and Irene have a good sense of harmony, and he and Peyton fit the rhythm real nice like a glove. So it's an ideal quartet for me to do different kind of things and change arrangements nightly as I feel the band needs. Irene, again, I've loved her playing for a very long time. She's a very good writer.
Yeah.
And Peyton has wonderful time. When the beat starts off, it stays there until I get tired of hearing it. That's necessary.
Absolutely. And that kind of, fits hand in glove with the way you approach your bass playing. You're obviously a beyond capable soloist, but your role as a rhythm section player, both within structures and being very loose as well, is kind of something that's defined you, I think, your career. Were there any kind of foundational philosophies with this group? Any sort of roadmaps or guidelines when you first put it together?
Well, I think any bass player who wants to be the band leader of any group has to have that band leader. That band understand that he or she is the leader. And once that step is in place, it's up to the band leader, the bass player in this case, to deliver. Whether it's an interesting library, whether setting the tone for the night with his or her attitude, whether deciding the tempos necessary and the keys they play them in, whether it's the order of the songs that they play, whether the second set is not as good as the first set, his job is to figure out why that is. And once you find people who understand that this direction is coming from the physical back of the band, the bass player, a good time can be had by all. If there aren't in place, I can't imagine a band staying together more than 20 choruses.
I managed to get a hold of the album since we first spoke a couple of days ago in high res, and it sounds spectacular. But you start your sets with a medley of a few tunes, as I understand it. Well, certainly on the album, and it seems to be what you do. And I guess maybe if you could talk a little bit about is there like the purpose of starting off with a series of tunes? First question is that, you do these continuous openings of 4 or 5 tunes.
I call this my mini suites.
Yeah.
And the reason that I do in fact have a program in my head. If we work a weekend at a place called, like we work a weekend at Birdland.
Yeah.
I plan a set for the week. I make 4 copies, make 5 copies.
Yeah.
Every one for the band and one for the sound guy.
Yeah.
And I have the songs picked out that I think we can, in an order that allows the set to build, depending on the order of the tunes I pick and the tempo and how long they are. I mean, all those factors always change every night depending on how the band and each person feels.
Sure.
But I want them to come to work every night knowing what the challenge is. This is not a repertory band. I'm not trying to see how many tunes they know. And they're trying to see how many I know. But I'm trying to see if they can pick up an idea from Tuesday night and knit it through the whole weekend so that by Saturday, they're in great shape.
Yeah.
So it's a mini suite. And I think that if I get it right, the audience doesn't realize that they've been sitting in this small space, or a space smaller than the forum, Well, I never think, I never feel that this band is built for small rooms.
Mm,
I think this band is built for as many people we can get into space. If the space
yeah,
is bigger, good for us.
yeah,
And I use the small room analogy because that was our last gig, basically.
yeah,
And uh, it's a good example for me of the music's correct, no matter how small the room is and how tight it is. People will feel the sense of not completion until I say it's completed. In a bigger room, there's so many other distractions, sizes, and hundreds of people, and that's really important too for the financial survival of the band. But again, I don't turn down the gig because the room is too big or too small. I don't believe that's possible with music.
one of the things that struck me when I listened to the album was how broad the dynamics were, from like really exhilarating energy to almost so quiet that I can almost imagine like the crowd having to lean forward in their seat to hear it.
That's
Um,
very necessary.
yeah, and I think that's feels is that kind of intimacy is a little harder to attain in like a concert hall as opposed to a club, maybe.
Oh no, 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 man! We've done 2,000 seat halls with big
Yeah,
spaces, and with the one, two, three tiers like this around the band,
yeah,
and like the opera seats and all kinds of stuff, man. And it's a wonderful set. Actually, they have better sounding rooms than most clubs. Clearly in their favor in terms of comparable sizes of rooms to play.
right. Yeah,
Uh, those size rooms always have great pianos. So, in any event, I don't work the environment. The size of the environment doesn't concern me at all. That's a hard condition to quantify. I
yeah,
like to think that musicians, whoever they are, understand the sonics of a room and may temper their general volume level to meet the accommodation of their arena, so to speak, in the broad terms. But I think that good players, they don't care if the room is too big or small. They just want to get something going so the people who paid to be entertained, quote unquote entertained, have a chance of getting their money's worth because we're able to give them their money's worth. A group that's called there's an event every year where certain record companies are selected by a group of persons who makes these decisions that have record vinyl day.
okay, record store day. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And this record store, they decide at this time to only have certain companies make a limited amount of vinyl discs.
yeah,
And they picked the company I'm with, In and Out Records, to be one of the groups whose job, whose selection meant that they would press only 2,000 records.
yeah,
They would all be numbered by hand and signed by the person to
yeah,
be issued on this special day that's been
yeah,
delayed because of the situation in the
yeah.
world. And with the stipulation that these records could not be put on sale to eBay until after a year has gone by.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay,
And since I'm in the band, I'm literally surrounded by the sound given the band. Uh, I never felt that I heard a recorded sound, a stereo, go back away, hi-fi system that sounded anything like what I'm hearing on the bandstand 3 sets a night. So because I never felt that I was really, my ear wasn't getting my money's worth, I decided to not get over involved in the physical reproduction of this music as a home, as a stereo guy
yeah,
person.
yeah,
Uh, so somehow I ran into Adrian a few years ago, and he told me that Herbie Hancock had bought a set of his smaller speakers,
yeah,
and he thought that I would be interested in hearing them some kind of way. And I said, "Well, how big are they?" And I have a pretty decent sized living room with good ceilings. And he told me, I thought that, well, that size is probably big enough for my house. Why don't you kind of get him over here at some point? So he and his friend came down from Ottawa at some point and unpacked these huge crates.
he brought 606s to you.
Yeah.
Wow.
I said, what did I walk into this time? Because my experience is I've often bought things were much too big for the space.
Yeah,
Uh, And the backstory to that tale is that when I was out to Arizona, Phoenix, doing a band clinic about 20 years ago, I went to a cactus farm. And they have cactus farms out there so people won't steal the cactus from the homeowners, basically.
Yeah.
So I saw this cactus that said, man, what a great look in my room. So I bought 3 of them. And I got them to New York, man. They were too big for the elevator. But outside in Phoenix, they looked like room size to me.
Yep.
So I learned the hard way. Don't do that. I thought until I saw these boxes come up my elevator. I mean, they're wooden crates, man.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, man, is this Phoenix revisited? What now? What?
Yeah.
And they unpacked them and put them on the little bitty stands about like this, you know. Yep. And I think at that time I had a pretty good turntable, a British turntable gear, and he hooked them up because I'm watching this deal, you know, and he seemed like he knew what was supposed to go where, so I just stepped back. I got some coffee and let him take his time. You know, I don't want to make him nervous, looking over his shoulder. Yeah. And we got it hooked up, and I played a Miles Davis record that I was on. I knew that was supposed to sound like. Yeah. Because I'm on that record, man. Yeah. I know what that means, you know. And I was kind of stunned because I didn't expect. I expected more than I got for the first hour. Yeah. A week later, I'm running back for the work, and so I leave the stuff on the burn-in and all that kind of stuff like you're supposed to do with good equipment. And I come back the next week and I put the same record on. Now I'm a little more tired because I've been working all day. I've been getting stuff. And I sit down in my chair, I call it the captain's chair, and play this record. And man, I could see the band walking on the stage.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yep.
That became my message to my friends. I say, hey man, come by my house and see the band. They're just incredible. I've recorded some classical music as well, you know, and a mixture of jazz and classical music, and to hear a classical pianist with some jazz drums sound so clearly different and official. So it's quite a comparison to have to listen to make a decision.
Yeah. And
I thought that my choice of writing this music for this band was proof it worked because I hear it on the record.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I've gone to some audio shows in the meantime, and of all the things that disappointed me were the records that the stereo gear people chose to play for the demonstrating their gear.
Yeah.
And I've had the audacity to give to take one of my records and listen to it.
Yeah.
Because I know what it sounds like, man. Not because I have good gear. I'm on that record.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know what you can expect.
I know what it sounds live, absolutely. Yeah. And none of them meant that elementary task to me. So I come back home like this. I sit down, sit in my chair, turn on that Miles Davis record, and I say, hey man, come watch the band go on the stage.
Well, I have to say I have a story. It's not quite as extensive, but it's similar. I mean, I'm not a musician of your caliber, but I spent many years in a studio and done a lot of recording. And what I said was, to Adrian, he was driving me to his place to check out the Tetras, and I said, you know, I'm looking for a speaker that makes me feel like I was, you know, in the room, and because I haven't had the chance to play, less chance to play really good sounding rooms, and I just want to get the feel that I had when I was there. And you know, Tetra to me is the thing I usually say is Tetra tells the truth. I mean, you hear what the music is. It doesn't color it. It doesn't do anything. So if you put together like a system that leads to it, like the Lima monoblocks, so that they don't do anything to change the way the music is that's coming to it, then you're hearing exactly what it sounded like. So much so that I started a column at All About Jazz called Rediscovery, because I was putting on albums I hadn't heard in ages, and it was like, you know, hearing them for the first time because I never heard them like that. So it's really, they really are remarkable. I actually had a chance to hear the new ones. They're called the 707 Phoenix at that Montreal Audio Fest last year.
Yeah, I was working. I couldn't get up there. How was that?
Uh, Pretty staggering. I mean, they're slightly larger woofer, they're like a 12-inch woofer instead of the 10s and the 606s, but also they've got this a ribbon tweeter rather than the air motion transformer that yours have,
Yeah.
and it just takes. It's the same. I mean, it's the same thing. It's just. I don't know how to describe it because I mean, it didn't make me want to go out and sell my 333s and buy the 7 because I couldn't afford it. But I thought they are a step up from both mine and also a bit from the 606s. They are
Really?
a more present sounding speaker. You know, I'd love to hear them through my Lima, but I don't think he could fit those in my elevator. So you know, I'd have to say
They're that big.
no, actually, they're not. They're about the same size, maybe, as the 606s, but they're not quite as like pyramid like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, but they're big enough, and they do. But anyway, but they really did sound. Everything that I played through them sounded the way I was hoping they would sound, which was you know, what I'm used to. So I would check them out. I would definitely. I mean, I'm not an audiophile because my definition of an audiophile is a guy who's always looking to find the next best thing. And I'm so happy with my Tetra setup that, you know, I don't have any real interest in upgrading. But, you know, but they are a special speaker, the new 707s. Anyway, I wanted to also congratulate you on being the recipient of the first HeartH Sound Tetra Lifetime Achievement Award. You've won many awards over your career, of course, but I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about the specific significance of this award for you.
Well, you know, I'm always amazed when I get these pronouncements, these awards, you know. I'm of a mixed location in the band. I'm always in the back of the band, no matter whose band it is, including mine.
Yeah.
You know, I'm always in the back of the band, and the guy in the crook of the piano, you know, the guy who's furthest from the microphone, you know. And while I don't play like that, I play like I'm part of the band, and when I'm the leader, I want my presence felt musically and physically. I'm surprised sometimes that people recognize the dichotomy and feel that I'm still worthy of an award. You know, I'm still in the back of the band, and they get they weave their expectations through all the bullshit in front and decide that there's a guy who's on top of his shit. Oh. I don't know a better way to put that.
Maybe you're amazed, but I'm not, because I've been a fan of yours since the mid '60s. So you know, this is no surprise to me. But they are talking about the award is for your leadership, mentoring, and teaching for one of the greatest sounds ever heard, and as a loving and caring human being and world-class musician. So I think that kind of covers a lot of ground.
Well, you know, yesterday with this stuff, with the schools closing, I'm doing a lot of lessons. We all are, online. And I'm kind of learning how to do that. I'm behind the curve because I never had to do that before this past 3 weeks for me.
Yeah.
And so I had my private lessons, got a little off to a rough start. And the last one, I had a lesson yesterday. And after the lesson was over, I sent an email to the student. I tell him, thank you for the lesson.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean thank you for him giving me the lesson. I'm thanking for him giving me the lesson.
Yeah.
There was a whole nother experience at this point in the day, that stuff that happened in the lesson. How come it didn't occur to me last week? Or this is a better way to do this, or this is another fingering, you know. So I keep teaching.
Yeah.
Because there's always room to get better at doing what I do through teaching.
Absolutely.
And then when I told him this phrase, he was stunned to hear it, because he said, I'm just a student. Yes, you are just a student. That's your role.
Yeah.
I'm just a teacher.
Yeah.
The difference is I'm taking lessons from you too.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the reasons I teach. I go to work every night, John, because I'm getting a free lesson from these other three guys, three musicians, including, you know. Every night I have to figure out how to make them get better. And it's making them getting better, making the music first better, and secondly, make me better.
Yeah.
Because that's the end result. Can these guys play better music because I'm playing this certain note for them? If they're not, then it's my shit. They have to figure out how to get the better on my end to make them hear it coming. You know, and just when it hits the spot, man, it's happening more and more. It just kind of makes you just feel otherworldly. So I can figure it out.
Yeah.
And every night I go to work looking for these spots, and every night I find one or two of them, depending on how my hands feel, how the band feels, stuff that's kind of out of my control, and to have these, in this case, a quartet, watch me night in and night out.
Yeah.
And expect me to deliver a specific level of excellence and a guaranteed attention span person.
Yeah.
And the guy who's going to be the last guy standing,
yeah,
and who is accepting my leadership unquestionably. Just an amazing feeling to have when you have these three people night in and night out.
Yeah.
You know? And those are the kind of things I think the people sense when they come here to the band, and this award covers those kind of feelings, those kind of acknowledgments.
So I assume Foresight is going to get it. I mean, once we're sort of past where we are right now with this pandemic, that this is going to be your ongoing group into the future for the time being.
They're all going to be my ongoing group.
Yeah.
I have a big band that works twice a year with 17 pieces of arrangements.
Mm-hmm.
I have a trio with Russell Malone and Donald Vega that works from every
Still
weekend.
doing Striker, Golden Striker. Okay.
Yes. And I have an octet with 4 cellos and a jazz quartet.
Whoa.
That works in Japan all the time.
I live in the wrong place.
I'm not going there.
Come on, man. Ottawa's a nice place.
I'm not going to go there. You know, if you at some point, John, email me your home address. I'm going to send you a disc of me playing classical music, my arrangements.
Yeah.
A famous classical pieces that break off into a wonderful jazz ballad or a quartet trio or a waltz or a swing. We'll see that record.
I'd love to hear that, man. Thank you.